Hello everyone, it's Sloth here today with very interesting archetype that I've been struggling against playing this kind of deck for a long time. If you watch my older videos, you probably noticed it. So basically, this is Mono Blue Tempo, and this is the deck that basically puts one small creature on the board that has a very good stat line, or like it can grow, or it does something really nicely, and then just counters every single play that you will make for the rest of the game while buffing his creatures. And then you are rage quitting because you couldn't play a card in this game. So basically, that's what we want to do. So for the deck list I think is quite solid. To be honest, First for Discover is the only card I've seen it in every deck list for this type of deck. And man, I'm not sure if it couldn't be better as something else, because even though it's a blue deck and it's a, you can think of it like as a bit of a control, it's not control at all. Like, our 3 mana drop is our super late game. As fun as it sounds, like basically you have 3 mana that you tap out completely. This is your biggest play of the game, and you don't need anything more expensive than this. And to be honest, like, even casting First for Discovery that loses you all this tempo is extremely painful, and I mean extremely painful. So I would actually experiment with replacing it, but generally that's the correct way to play it, and you can go for longer, right? So yeah, about the deck, how do you play it? Basically, you have those creatures, those small pesky creatures that are extremely irritating to play against. Basically, you want the Delver. Hard lesson learned, you want Delver first, most of all. Ascendant Spirit is a very good card, but it's slower because you need to pay every turn a lot of mana, which comes very unhandy against Spikefield Hazard. Like, if you really invest 3 mana into having nothing, and don't forget, it also means that you don't get to counter anything, which is actually huge because you will never see situation where enemy doesn't cast spells at all. Like, he will cast something. So even though you will protect the board, it costs you like some mana every turn and 1 counter spell every turn. So with Spirit, it's much harder to do this, especially at this first phase of 2 mana, because it has 1 toughness. So you pay 2 mana and then every removal in the game kills it. So that's a problem. After it has 3 toughness, it's easier because he needs to invest more mana into killing it. So it's easier to play around it. Yeah, so basically that was a long intro about playing the Delver first. And you will see in one of the games that I learned it. So yeah, this was pretty much you pay 1 mana and for the rest of the game you don't care. And big things. The most important cards are Essence Capture and March. Like, you have all of the cards that are important, sure, but those cards are like game winning, and like seriously game winning. Essence Capture, I've learned the value of this card really quickly. The counter spell is a big one, but the +1/+1 counter on the Delver actually makes such a huge difference. The 3 attack and 4 attack is actually like usually 1 turn earlier kill, and usually you are like at the brink of destruction at the end game. Like, when enemy dies, you are pretty much losing control over the game. So that was your last turn to do it. So it actually makes a super big difference. And this is the reason that you generally want a 1-drop in order to counter with Essence Capture whatever he plays. And when you can, and remember that the earlier you put the counter, the better value you get. So you don't want to do it late game. You want to do it on turn 2, because then if he attacks for 4 turns, that's 4 extra damage. If you do it on turn 5, it's just 1 extra damage. So that's a big difference. And you need to play around small things like this because they will decide whether you killed him in time or he gained control over the game. March, usually it's your game winning card. This is how you win most of the games, because at some point you need to exile enemy board or you need to protect your creature and exile enemy board. Don't forget, you can do both. So you can basically exile a lot of cards from like the player side, but you can also protect this one flying creature like Delver. And it also protects you from all the removal for this turn that is sorcery speed. And you will see it in the games, that when enemy tries to remove our stuff as sorceries, we can just protect it, and even if he has another one, it won't matter because our creatures are phased out already and he cannot like follow up with anything, which is very important with this deck. Like we won't have much time to make plays, so we need to make them count. Dreamshackle Geist, extremely expensive card for this deck. 3 mana, tapping out completely. Very often you are at the mercy of the enemy. But the effect is so insane. Basically with this deck you race. You most of the time race. Enemy races on the ground and you are racing on like flying, like above the ground, whatever. So this card actually does both. It races very well because it has 3 attack and it makes sure that enemy biggest creature cannot attack. And sometimes it can tap something with reach or something like this that prevents the enemy from dying because he played this one small creature that he hoped will like win him the game and help him survive. So this card is amazing. You really want to have it in the play, but making it enter the play and not dying and not having enemy like crazy follow up is extremely hard, but you need to do it at some point. Spectral Adversary. Okay card. It's not the all-star, but it has its uses. Usually you cast it for 4 and phase out one of the targets for removal. So basically get 2 for 1. You get something that attacks enemy with haste pretty much if you cast it at the end step of enemy turn or in response to something, and you protect your own creatures. So this deck is full of synergies, and we of course have Geistlight Snare because it's a cheap counter spell. You basically have a lot of spirits. This is the prime target, so if you cast this turn 1, you can cast turn 2 Snare. And yeah, we have a lot of spirits, pretty much everything except Delver. Yeah, and don't forget, Fading Hope also protects your creatures. Otawara. If you don't have Otawara, but you probably have at this point, you can always switch it to Island, because sometimes you might get punished with First for Discovery, and don't forget, it's not snow covered. So it means that if you play this land, you will always have 1 less mana for the Ascendant Spirit for the rest of the game. So, something to consider, not obvious at the first choice. And yeah, about the deck. What I have found, like my conclusion, my review of the deck is very polarizing. It's either completely dominating enemy or not doing anything, because it really depends on the draw. So you first of all, you really need to be careful about how you start the game, and I mean, no joke, you need to mulligan this deck if you don't get the right hand. You need to have creature, you need to have counter spell that protects this creature, and optimally you want another and another counter spell, something like this. If you don't have them, you should mulligan, because then you don't really do anything and you do lose in longer game. So if game goes like about 5 mana or something, you cannot keep up, your spells don't do much. So yeah, that's the first thing. And generally the deck can be extremely strong if you are, for example, like turn 1 Island, then Delver, that flips, and then Essence Capture and follow up with 3 counter spells. Like man, this deck is insane, and you need to be really careful about the creature removal. If you have 1 creature, you need to make sure you protect it, otherwise you are left with nothing. So while I like the deck, and it definitely has a place in the meta, and it is something fresh, right? It plays very differently than the control. This is something that doesn't really fit my style, so I would probably not play it too much, but it is interesting, and it's definitely a hard deck to beat, and if you get the perfect draw, enemy cannot do anything and he will lose. What more, I think it's a cheap deck, right? Because, well, you have matches, you have... Well, actually, you have a lot of rares, so for the budget decking, it's not as relevant as it was some time ago, I guess. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. It is a shorter one because of the reasons that were mentioned in the previous video. Unfortunately, that's the case. But I hope you like it, and I've tried this deck because I think the games are very dynamic, so you can get a lot of action in the same time, and I really hope you will enjoy it. So tell me what you think, and thank you for watching. As always, if you like this kind of decks and even the more control ones, always subscribe, and I appreciate it, and really thank you for all the support, guys. I hope you enjoy the videos. Yeah, leave the comment if you have some feelings about anything, and I will gladly know. So yeah, thank you and enjoy the videos. Oh man, on the play, this is the perfect hand. This is what you want when you are on the play. Actually on the draw as well, but on draw it's so much worse. Like, they might have play with fire or something. There wasn't stick, so I hope they don't. Okay, so no 1 mana removal. This is the crucial turn. If they don't remove Delver... Okay, so we are probably in a very good spot right now. I think we could win this game, even on the draw right now. If he removed this creature, we would be in huge trouble. But now we definitely can raise his 2-drop. That's one of the good things about the Delver, right? So it's a 1-drop that can basically raise 2 or 3-drop. You know what? I will take your counter. So this is exactly as you want this deck to work. You play small creature, and then you can pump it and attack every turn while countering everything enemy does. So yeah, I'm pretty sure we should win this one, if we don't mess anything up. And man, Essence Capture is such a big card for this deck. Player 3/3 Haste Trampler. Enjoy, it will be here, and it will go sideways, at least in your mind. Sure, I don't mind additional counter. I do not mind it. We need to be careful though. We might not hit the third land for the Geist. Never mind. Always skillful. Not lucky, it was pure skill drawing this land from the top. So basically Spell Pierce is a bit worse in this matchup, as he has mostly creatures, if not all creatures, so it cannot protect anything. I actually don't mind the Aspirant. Like, the only reason it could matter is... just a moment. Sure. Is if he killed us before, but he won't be able to. 1 red mana. It cannot deal 4 damage, right? So we are not scared. We can draw into more counter spells. Smart. And this, my friend, is your last turn. Make it count. Make it count. And we have counter spell together with protection. So we don't counter anything unless it kills us, because enemy will die next turn. So far, like, smork everything you want. At some point you need to kill us, my friend. We could even do something, but that's not correct decision. Also, he cannot cast deal 5 damage. We never tap out. We never tap out. And now he's forced. Yep. That was pretty much the perfect game. This is what you want to do with this deck. The only misplay that we did was being on the draw. You want to be on the play, and with such hand you really will lose, unless enemy has Spike, Field Hazard, and on turn 1, then he basically lost. Okay, opponent goes first. And our hand sucks. Our hand is a disaster. This one is much better, and sorry first for discovery. You are freaking too slow. Okay, that's a good start. So, do we lose the creature or not? If we lose it, it's better to play a Spirit Ascendant. If we don't lose it, it's better to cast Delver. You know what? This one is more tempo. Like, it's better tempo-wise. And next turn, we can protect the Spirit Ascendant. We don't have much value, so it is possible. Oh man. I think I've never flipped Delver after 1 turn. I think I've never done it so far. Okay. So we want to play something, right? So it doesn't flip to nighttime. So let's do it like this. We cannot attack, so we missed 3 damage because Delver didn't flip. let's see if it is game winning or game losing. We have March, so we can protect our stuff. That's a good thing. The fact that he gets mana acceleration on top of creature that forces werewolves is pretty scary. You don't want to block. Our creatures are like inferior stat-wise, but they are nimble. They are sneaky. Yep. Yep. So maybe the correct choice was Spirit into Snare, but I don't really think so. Oh man, this will be such a pain. Such a pain. Definitely reveal. You know, that gives us some options. This gives us some options. We can tap out, and the fact that we can be the aggressor is pretty huge in this kind of deck. Enemy will run, but we will hit him for quite a lot of damage. Man, if he was on 13, that would look so much better. I really like the Geist, because it gives you value every turn for the rest of the game. And as long as we... Yep, this does hurt, but we have double March, so... Not sure if the enemy actually knows what he's doing. Like, you enjoy your cards, but you need to kill our creatures in the end. I would definitely not attack with Halana, if anything. Okay, doesn't untap, so we go for this one definitely, right? Because that's the most stats, so then he creates this one as a bigger thing, but then we can march if we want. Okay, so we attack definitely with everything. Now the question is, do we buff this? Because this might be very important. But I honestly think we go for the bigger march. I think that's what we do. So it's 7 damage, right? Man, it actually makes a difference. 7 damage, and next turn we can go for 8 damage. So we will be exactly one short. So I will actually do it. So maybe we don't play for 2 turns, we play for 1 turn. Yep. That's a lot of stuff. We basically need to phase out everything that will be attacking this turn. Like, this doesn't matter, bro. It's cool, but it's not good enough. And he tap out. And ladies and gentlemen, he just tapped out. Let's do it correctly, I guess. So, 4. We go for Spell Pierce and this. He can give something haste, right? This is tapped, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And that was the game-winning play. March. March in this deck is basically everything. And now we Smork. Doesn't untap. Smorky Smork. And let's make sure we Smork him for the mole. Oh, we don't have the Snowland. That's unfortunate. And by the way, if I didn't pump the Ascendant Spirit, we wouldn't win this one. Alright, having Delver on the play with Fading Hope and Spell Pierce, pretty much our dream start. So, let's see how far can we get poor little Delver. Hopefully up to 21 damage. So, enemy can have 1 mana removal if he wants. Man, we will never flip it at turn 1, but we have Fading Hope and we have Spell Pierce, so it feels much better. And next turn we will have the counter spell, like the actual counter spell. So I'm really hopeful right now. Oh wow, I didn't see this card. As long as it's modified, it creates more stuff. Sure. I don't mind. And Scry is actually really important here. Reveal. And Delver has just become way better. And right now we don't play this stuff, we just keep on countering everything. And especially now enemy knows about this game plan. So they know that they should double spell. If not, everything they play is countered. And they really need to play into this, which is pretty sweet. So with this deck you really want to keep up the counter spells. Like, if you lose this creature, you are done, so you better not lose it. Nah, that's the plan. Easy to say. At some point we will play the Geist, Essence Capture, and now our creature is even better. Man, it's so frustrating to play against our deck. Like, he will play every spell every turn, and he will probably get countered every turn until he dies. So yeah, that's part of the joy of this deck. Sure, man. We don't counter it because it's so mana inefficient that we actually want him to attack, like to cast it again. Because then he will be pretty dead. We don't play anything, we don't have Spirit, so it means this doesn't get discounted. So we need to keep up everything. He's at 5. If he recasts it, we just counter it, and then go all in with the Spell Pierce. Reach. Reach is actually quite important, so we counter it. Surprise, surprise, we counter it. Didn't see this one coming. And by the way, this has flying, so even with Raichu, yep, that was it. Man, for the enemy that must have been so frustrating. I was on the other side so many times, and oh man, I'm rage quitting right now. Okay, going first. With no creatures, do we mulligan this? Like, we only have 3 drop. You know what, I will mulligan this. Yep, Delver is much better. And we definitely don't need so many lands. This deck is fun. You always get like flooded, or you lack a creature. So you need to really be careful about your opening hand, because that's pretty much the only big part that will matter. And you need usually man, I cannot talk. Usually you need like creature and something to protect it. And usually you want a cheap creature. Like, this is very good, but it's basically our late game, you know? Our 3 mana late game card. And I've yet to see a Delver flipping on turn 1. But as long as we have match, I'm overall quite happy. Greeters are problematic. Nice. Reveal. That's really good. Drove is also amazing. So right now let's start attacking. We really need to work on his HP. I would much rather see him at 14 already. But you know, Innkeeper. Do we counter it? I think we counter everything. This gives life gain, so that's a problem, and that's the reason we are doing this. Yeah, so this doesn't matter for now. That's a very good draw. Smark. So if he has Gala Greeters, it means that it's a creature deck. So it means Essence Capture will hit something. It might be Chariot. If he gets Chariot, we are not happy. But everything other than this is amazing. Because basically, if you see this card, it means that he wants to create a lot of creatures every turn. So his deck must be built around it. So we are trading 4 damage to 1, which is pretty awesome right now. That's actually also a good draw. Let's attack first. It definitely seems to have something, which is interesting. So we mostly do it for damage, and we have March that can exile this and protect both of the creatures. Man, what does he have really? Yeah, we could cast it before the combat phase, but let's be honest, if this attacks us, we don't we don't care at all. Devouring Tendrils. Target creature control deals damage equal to its power. Okay, so it needs to die. So we definitely protect our stuff. And I think we'd do it like this. Because this is sorcery speed. Usually green has sorcery speed removal. It means that even if he has something else to play, he cannot do it in response. Okay, so 12 I assume. Yep. Oh man, that's such a freaking good draw. Let's make him not untap. Like in the end he needs to win the race, right? And it doesn't seem like he can do it. And the fact that we can save one of the creatures with phasing is simply amazing. It will really help. Like this will ensure that we can win whenever a number of target creatures you control phase out. So what? He gets 4 life, and then we smork him for 7, right? So if we phase out one of the creatures, I think it's enough to win. Because then he doesn't get one of the triggers and we enhance the damage, so unless he has 1 mana thing that removes our stuff. And let's protect the Delver, because it's the highest damage thanks to the counter. I'm freaking dummy. I'm such a dummy. You can see I'm not playing mono blue very often. Yeah, so yeah. We should phase this one out. I don't know what I was thinking. It doesn't matter, but we are definitely not the greatest player in this game. But yeah, I should phase out one of the Galagriters. Hopefully it didn't matter. Okay, that's a nice one. That's a nice one. Let's see if the enemy can kill the Ascendant Spirit in turn 1, which is usually not your favorite play of the game. Jwari is really important here. Okay, and enemy seems to be playing a bit of a slower deck, which is fine. So we smork him for 1. Yes, we could smork him for 2, but then we don't really play the deck. And we are playing like stuff with, you know, haste, pretty much. Okay. So we generally want to attack with this deck. I think this turn it was very possible to go for this, but I don't want to, you know, this, to be honest, does it even matter? Yeah, I think it doesn't matter. We wouldn't counter it, we would buff this one, and enemy would just draw some cards and that's it, and he would be dead. This is one of the games you can get with this deck, like easy win. Okay, so Spectral Adversary. Like, I guess it's okay. Being on the play, it's okay, because we can cast it, yeah, during enemy end step. Oh man, and this is always the same deck. It's getting to the scale of mono white, basically, a new mono white. Okay, so we definitely need to protect this creature. This is our lifeline for the game. And we would much rather have some additional creature, I would say. This comes with a counter, we need to embrace it. On the bright side, it will be harder to try. That's a very suspicious 1 red mana, but if he has it, we need to play into it. Yep, and he has the play with fire, I would assume. Yep, he's targeting it. He's moving his red hand over our blue creature. Well, like, that's how you draw. That's how you freaking draw. On the bright side, we have a card draw, and we have counter spell. We also have Fading Hope. So we have some things going on for us, and the counter on Initiate is pretty much wasted, I would say, in this situation. So we just keep on drawing. Enemy cannot play the Emperor. Wow, we need to discard too. Spell Pierce. How good is Spell Pierce? Oh man. Hard choice. I think we need land, right? The only situation when you get punished by Otawara. So I think it's Spell Pierce. We need this and some protection. So actually maybe let's go like Fading Hope and Spirit. Which one we prefer? Do we go for the Geist or the Spirit? I think Geist is a bit better. We might regret this choice. And of course, land from the top. Oh man, this deck sometimes does not cooperate. And I think we tap the Initiate. And the reason is, he might have a 3-3 haster. And if he has it, this will become a 3 attack creature. So it's better than the other thing. We have Spell Pierce. And of course, perfect. Oh man, like, this guy is freaking OG. OG of Magic. It doesn't matter, phase out will vanish at his step. So like we can protect it and we tap the creature and we can untap with it. So there are small things, but yeah, like his hand is basically perfect against our deck because he has extremely low cost removal. So like, let's make sure that this creature doesn't untap. We attack. I think we might bounce the Initiate, but we'll see. We will see what he does. We need to be showdown of the cards. That's actually really good for us. This is actually quite good. Okay, so you are saying there is a chance. Let's hope he plays the cave. Nice. But maybe we just don't really bounce it. Right now we need to raise him super hard. So for this reason, let's raise him super hard. Because this will be very crazy in a very short time. So let's prevent the most damage. Oh, that's a weird draw. Let's smork. Let's smork. This doesn't untap, that's the most damage. Like with Otawara we have some options. Let's hope he plays into the counter spells. If he uses the cave, that's super bad for us. Okay, so here's the counter. He can deal 6 damage. That's quite a lot. That's quite a lot. So let's give him the option to pay 3. And I think he will. So then we counter it. Then he smokes for 6. And all we need to do is draw a march from the top. and hopefully that will be enough. Okay. We really milked this draw out of all the value. Ascendant, as you can see, would be a bit too slow. Man, that's not the card you want to see in this situation. So definitely this doesn't untap, so it doesn't put counters. So we attack with this one, and this one is for blocking. Like, you know, we might get there. We definitely have answers. And right now Otawara can make a payback after all the bad draws. Like, we have open mana, we obviously have some. Yeah, sure. Must be good. Must feel nice. So let's draw, see if we get something. Yep. We would get March if he targeted our creatures. Close game, close game.